By early '92, the Stray Cats had hit the end of the line. Their last album had tanked, they were playing to half-empty clubs, and even they seemed to be losing interest in their music.
I saw pictures of us in concert, and we were tired and bored. The crowds had dwindled, and you have to realize when something's over.
Easing his breakup with the Stray Cats was Brian's new sweetheart, record exec Christine Schmidt. After a whirlwind courtship, the two were married. And by then, Brian had also stumbled on a new musical romance.
I was walking down my block, and my neighbor was playing jazz. He goes, "Yo, Stray Cat, come on in. You wanna jam?" And they're playing jazz, so they're probably nudging each other. You won't be able to keep up with us. And he realized I was pretty good, you know?
Struck by the experience, Brian began immersing himself in jazz. He soon fell for swing, a freewheeling style of jazz made popular by big band orchestras in the '40s.
He was listening to Bobby Darin records and playing his guitar along with them, and was like, God, what about a rock and roll guitar in front of this big band? And wouldn't that sound great?
Well, that must have been a real wacky idea to anybody at that time to go, you want to bring my parents' music back? That is so not going to happen.
Brian had rolled the dice on old music once before, leading an unlikely rockabilly revival. Giving new life to swing seemed like even more of a crapshoot.
Here's a guy who wants to put an electric guitar in front of a 17-piece horn section and rhythm section, and Nirvana's the top thing on the radio. You know, people were looking at him like he had 3 heads.
Nobody had ever fronted a big band with an electric guitar, and I asked Brian why. Wouldn't somebody have tried it? He said, well, there weren't amps. Oh, okay. That's a pretty good reason.
Following his instincts and ignoring the skeptics, Brian assembled the 17-piece big band of his dreams. By December '92, the Brian Setzer Orchestra was ready for its first gig. But as the concert date approached, almost no tickets had been sold.
The promoters called me. "Oh, we have to cancel the show. We got to cancel the show. You didn't sell any tickets." I said, "I'll pay the band out of my pocket, and I don't care if there's 10 people there. I'm going to play with my big band, and I'm going to at least say I did it."
I worked at a record label at the time, and I just called every press person I knew and just said, you got to see this. And we packed the place. Friends and industry and whatnot, and everyone loved it.
From the first, 5 seconds of launching into whatever song, it was overwhelming. It was an assault on the senses.
The audience was blown away by Setzer's raucous jazz riffs and wicked guitar licks. But the enthusiasm didn't extend to record labels. After 6 months of rejection, there was one label left for Brian to try.
We're Hollywood Records. We were the last stop on everybody's list.
Hollywood Records executive Peter Paterno was sold on the project by Brian's energetic belief in his vision.
I said I didn't know if I'd be playing in front of 10 people or 100 or 1,000, but I knew it was good. How many times can you say in your life you've come up with something really that no one else has ever done before?
He's very pure about what he does, had a vision, and he executed the vision, and whether it was trendy or not, or happening or not, it was great. So we signed the band.
In August of '93, the Brian Setzer Orchestra recorded their self-titled debut album, boasting big band arrangements of rock, rockabilly, and pop standards. Now they faced the task of selling it. In the age of grunge, there was no room on the radio for a big band. The only way to capture an audience would be by touring the country, and the expense of doing that was enormous.
The idea of touring was just impossible. How can I pay for 18 hotel rooms, 18 per diems, 18 meals, 18 guys, and 18 salaries?
It's sort of budgets on steroids. It was literally to do something like 10 cities, $250,000.
Despite the cost, the orchestra hit the road, a band on tour unlike any before it.
What I had to do was play. Every time I played, my audience next time was doubled. I started off at the Coach House, Strand, Roxy, House of Blues, 2 nights House of Blues, 3 nights House of Blues. It was all word of mouth.
Get your kicks on Route
Propelled by the tour, the album eventually sold a respectable 200,000 copies. But that wasn't impressive to Hollywood Records once Peter Paterno left.
I'd signed Brian, and the guy that followed me had no interest. He didn't really think there was much to this swing thing.
The new regime was basically espousing the same kind of philosophy that I'd heard from the record companies when we were trying to get it signed in the beginning.
It was another obstacle for Brian to overcome, but he did. Signing a new deal with Interscope Records and releasing a new album, Guitar Slinger, in the spring of 1996.
Every time they performed, people went to the record store to buy the record. So if that happened in one city, you knew it could happen in 50.
There was the swing phenomenon that was starting to build, and kids were starting to take swing dance lessons, and there were lounges popping up.
Despite its modest success, the Brian Setzer Orchestra was chewing up more money than it made. With the cash he'd earned with the Stray Cats running out, Brian decided to make one last-ditch effort. In January of '98, his orchestra went into the studio to record their third album, The Dirty Boogie.
When we got to Dirty Boogie, the next part of the game plan was to try to get a song that was going to work on the radio. And Jump, Jive, and Wail was in the last sessions of the record.
Tom asked me to record it. I said, Jump, Jive, and Wail? I love Louis Prima. But I figured, well, I have enough covers on this record.
And we talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and we finally thought it made sense to record it.
Yeah, but make it yours. Make it a big band song. So I wrote all the charts, put a modulation in there, put a great guitar solo, slap bass. All of a sudden it went, oh, it's got some magic to it.
When it was done, everyone thought this was it.
6 years of hard work and sacrifice were about to pay off. Released in June of '98, Jump, Jive, and Wail struck a nerve and became a colossal hit. Once again, Brian had followed his unorthodox instincts to the top of the charts.
And it just blew the roof off of everything. You know it's a hit when you get sick of hearing it.
This whole swing movement just sort of, the door opened, and Brian and us, we just marched right in it, and it just exploded. We went from selling 300,000 records to selling 2 million records.
Brian Setzer had now taken two forgotten styles of music and made them hip once again. The stunning achievement of his swing revival was celebrated in February '99 when Brian was nominated for 3 Grammys for Dirty Boogie. It was the crowning moment of his career and one that he almost missed completely.
So, the Grammy goes to the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
We were walking in, and we were just sitting down to get our seats.
The whole place stood up and started applauding. And I had missed the introduction. And they said, well, we're applauding for you. I said, what do you mean? You just won a Grammy. And I missed it.
Thank you. Oh, my God. I'm not sure. Wow. Well, it's the first time I've ever been nominated for something. This is such an awesome feeling.
I was so proud of him. I mean, I know all the hard work, you know, that went into this, and cried.
I saw that program, and I was very, very proud of him there when they called him up and he received the Grammy for what he did.
That means the most, that you're getting that recognition from your peers, from other musicians. That's the plum. That's the biggest deal in my life.
Come on, baby.
Next, Brian goes back to the future.
Brian could come up now and say, okay, I'm starting a punk polka band. And we couldn't really laugh at him. We'd have to say, okay.
When Behind the Music continues.